Assalamualaikum. I am KUTING, the last reporter of Group 6. The topic that I am going to discuss is the assessment standard in special education. So, assessment standard in special education are guidelines and criteria used to evaluate the progress, ability, and needs of students with disability. This standard helps teachers and educators measure how well students are learning and where they may need extra support or accommodation. Let's proceed to normative groups. Normative groups allow teachers to compare one person's performance to the performance of others. So, normative groups are like group of people who are similar to each other in some way, like age or grade level. When teachers compare a student performance to this group, it's helped them to understand how well the student is doing compared to others. The next is validity, the extent to which a task measures what its author or user claim it's measured, according to Sylvia et al. In 2010. So validity is all about making sure that a test or assessment actually measure what it's supposed to measure. For example, if a test is meant to measure reading skills, it should really be testing reading skills and not something else. Now let's proceed to types of validity. The first one is the content validity. Content validity is a logical process where connection between the test items and the job-related tasks are established. So content validity is like making sure a test is relevant to what it's supposed to measure. For example, if a test is for a job, the question should be related to the task someone would actually do in that job. It's like checking if the content of the test matches of what importance for the job. The second is the concurrent validity. Concurrent is the statistical method using correction rather than a logical method. So concurrent validity is about comparing a new test to an established one to see if they give similar result. It's like checking if the new test is measuring the same thing as the old one. Instead of just looking at the content like in the content validity, concurrent validity uses number and statistic to see how closely the score on the two tests matches up. Third is predictive validity. Predictive validity is a similar concurrent validity that it's measure the relationship between examinees' performance on the test and their actual status. Predictive validity is about seeing if a test can predict how someone will do in the future based on their performance on the test. For example, if a test is given to students to predict how well they will do in college, researchers would look at how well students' scores on the test matches up with the actual college performance later on. It's like testing if the score on the test can accurate forecast or predict what someone's future performance will be like. And lastly, the phase validity. The phase validity is determined by a review of the items and not through the use of statistical analysis. So, phase validity is basically just what it sounds like, how a test assessment looks on the surface. It's about whether the test seems to measure what it's supposed to measure just by looking at it. For example, if a test is about math, you'd expect to see math problems on it. Its kind of validity isn't about deep analysis or fancy statistics. It's just about whether a test seems to make sense and looks appropriate to people who see it. So now let's proceed to reliability. So reliability is like consistency or dependability. It's about whether you can trust that something will give you the same result every time you use it. For example, if a scale always gives you the same weight measurement when you step on the multiple times, it's reliable. In terms of observation or a test, reliability means that if you observe a behavior once, you can accept to see similar behavior in similar situations or at different times, even if someone else is observing. It's about being able to trust that your observation or measurement are consistent and can be applied in different situations or by different people. So here are the three types of reliability. The first one is the item similar performance on similar items. This means that if someone takes a test with similar question or task, they should get similar score each time. For example, if you take a math test one day and get a certain score, you should get a similar score if you take another math test with similar question later on. The second is stability, similar performance in the future. This type of reliability is about whether someone's performance on a task or observation remains consistent over time. For instance, if you assess someone's reading skills and they score a certain level, you'd expect them to score around the same level if you assess them again a few weeks or months later. And the last types is inter-observer agreement, similar performance with a different person. This refers to whether different people observing or scoring the same behavior or test performance would come to similar conclusion. For example, if two teachers observe a student behavior in class and both agree on the same rating or assessment, it is suggests that observation is reliable and not just based on one person's perspective. The next is universal design for special education. Universal design is the design of products and environment to be used by all people. So, universal design for special education means making schools and learning material accessible and helpful for all students, including those with disabilities. It's like making sure everyone can easily use and benefits from everything at school without needing special help or changes. And lastly, here is the 7 principles of universal design according to Mays in 1977. The first one is the equitable use. The design is useful and markable to people with disability. So this means making sure that everyone, including people with disability, can use and benefit from the design. It's about creating things that are useful. Second principle is flexibility in use. The design can accommodate a wide range of individual preference. So this means that the design should work well for many different people and their various needs or preferences. It should be adaptable for that everyone can use it in a way that suits them best. For example, a website might offer a text in different sizes and a device might work both for left-handed and right-handed people. Third principle is simple and intuitive use. The use of the design is easy to understand. So this means that the design should be easy to understand and use, even if someone is using it for the first time. It should be straightforward with clear instruction or no need for instruction at all. For example, a door with a push bar clearly shows how to open without needing a sign. Fourth principle is the perceptible information. The design communicates necessary information effectively to the user. So this means that the design should clearly communicate all necessary information to the user, no matter their sensory ability or environmental condition. For example, important information might be conveyed through the both visual sign and audio cues, so that the people with different abilities can understand it. Fifth principle is tolerance for error. The design minimizes hazards and adverse consequences of accidental or unintended action. So this means that the design should help prevent accident and reduce the negative effects if someone makes a mistake. It's about making sure that using the design safely is easy and that any errors don't cause serious problems. The second to the last principle is the low physical effort. The design can be used efficient and comfortably with minimum level of fatigue. So this means that the design should be easy to use without causing tiredness or strain. It should be allow people to use it comfortably and efficiently without needing a lot of physical energy. For example, a door that opens with a light push or automatic doors are easier to use than heavy doors that require a lot of effort. And the last principle is size and space for approach and use. Appropriate size and space is provided host fun for approach, reach, and manipulation and use. So this means that the design should provide enough room for people to access, reach, and use it comfortably. This includes making sure that there is enough space for people of all sizes and those using mobility aids like wheelchair or workers. And that's the end of my report. Once again, I am Alvin Kuting.